Welcome and thank you for tuning in to episode 65 on the Healthy Runner podcast. And we are live within the Healthy Runner Facebook group talking with my running guy, Matt Santillo from Woodbridge Running Company. This is actually Matt's second time on the show, as he came on almost a year ago now and really educated us all about running shoe questions that the listeners had in episode 14. We talked about how much wear or life can you expect from your running shoes? How do you know if you need new shoes? And we even talked about if you can put your running shoes in the wash to clean them. So if you missed that episode, then scroll back on the podcast and have a listen. We had a great conversation, and I knew that I would have to have Matt back on the show again in the future because he is a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, he is my go-to resource when I get my new running shoes. And I was just in there a couple of weeks ago and he helped me out. So Matt, welcome back on the show.
Hey, Dwayne, how you doing?
Very good. I am super excited about this. I am happy to share your knowledge with our Healthy Runner community. And really what we're going to be getting into, guys, in this episode is we're going to talk about the latest trends in running shoes in 2021. So Matt is going to answer some common questions like what happened to the barefoot running movement and shoes. We're going to talk about what are the benefits in running in minimalist shoes? What is up with the carbon fiber plates in running shoes? And what are carbon plate running shoes? We'll also get into if carbon plate running shoes are worth the investment. So for those of you who are here on the live within Facebook in our Healthy Runner Facebook community, can you guys do me a favor and just type in live into the comment box? And if you're catching the replay, let us know you caught the replay by typing in replay into the comment box. So guys, for those of you who are here, I do have a super special gift just for you. And if you stick around to the end of tonight's training, then we're going to get into how you can possibly, perhaps get a free new pair of running shoes. So stick around to hear about the details and how you can enter into this contest. So Matt, the first question we ask all our guests on the show is we get started with a little dynamic warm up. So tell us, for those who haven't listened to episode 14, where are you from and what do you do?
Sure. Dwayne, my name is Matt Santillo. I work at a manager at the Woodbridge Running Company. I've been at the store about 10 years now. And one of the great things about the store is that I'm a huge runner. So it's basically, it's a dream job for me. I'm like to be around running shoes and be around people who, either have a wealth of experience of running, even new runners, because it's kind of nice to kind of help them get on their path to starting an activity that is, I think, can be fun for anybody. And it's, you could be any kind of, athlete level and really enjoy it.
Yeah, and it is a pretty much low barrier, right, to entry to be able to run and be able to exercise. You definitely don't need to be, the most coordinated individual, so to speak, like some of the ball sports out there. And you don't need a lot of equipment, right? You just need a good pair of running shoes.
That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to getting into today. But let's catch up with kind of COVID, the pandemic. How has your running been going this past year?
I took some time off. Definitely the concerns with lack of motivation, as especially we got towards the fall and the winter months. I think that took a little bit of its toll. But now that the warmer weather is back out there and I can actually run in a t-shirt and shorts, you definitely get a little bit more excited. There's always that first day that you are able to break out shorts and you go for a run, and you get a couple of miles into the run. It's like, oh, whoa, slow down, don't go so fast. But and races appear to be on the horizon too. So it's a very exciting time right now.
Indeed, it is. Yeah, no, the weather and yeah, just the positive outlook with races coming back is very exciting. And as I feel like we've talked about in the last couple of podcast episodes, you almost have to hold back, right, and not do too much too soon. As I always say, you got to train smart with proper progression. And so, as runners, we need to kind of, when that weather is nice, you want to go longer, you want to go faster, but make sure, guys, your body is ready to be able to do that. As we go along tonight, Matt has agreed to field any of your questions. So whatever running shoe questions you have, I would definitely get them in. Like I said, this is usually a very popular topic. We always want to know more about running shoes. So Matt is here to answer those questions. So drop them in the comment box. I'm going to try my best to keep up with you guys and get your questions answered by Matt as we go. All right, Matt, let's get into this. So I think about when I first started running, it's 10 years now. This is like, I just came up on my run anniversary. And I remember 10 years ago, as a PT, I was getting a lot of runners in my clinic who were getting injured because they started this like barefoot running craze. And that seemed like that was all the rave 10, 15 years ago. What's happened with it? I haven't heard a whole lot about the barefoot running craze and the five finger shoes. What's happened to that?
Yeah, so that was definitely a little bit of a fad, at least in terms of the Vibram Five Fingers. That was a shoe that had absolutely no cushioning to it. It was basically just a little bit of kind of like protection for the foot. You were running on basically like a layer of blown rubber, which is what is on the bottom of the running shoe. No midsole material at all, and then just basically just a wrapping over the foot just to provide some protection from whatever you might be on in terms of a road and dealing with potentially glass or any of those kinds of things. In terms of the barefoot running, you know, that still to some degree is still around there. It's just it's done in a little bit of a different way now. A lot of shoe companies kind of took the trials and errors of the barefoot running movement and incorporated it into traditional shoes. So within the last 10 to 15 years, there have really been some major changes to running shoes in terms of midsole materials, in terms of how shoes are constructed, in terms of heel drop, a lot of different changes in terms of how the shoe, covers the foot, different weights of shoes. So to some degree, it's still there. You just kind of have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah. So is that what you would call how these companies kind of pivoted a little bit? Is that what minimalism is all about and kind of the minimalist shoe, would you say?
Exactly. They realized, I think, that there was kind of a need for it or a desire that people were kind of looking for something little different, and companies have kind of responded to that in definitely a wondrous amount of ways.
Nice. So what are the benefits to running in minimalist shoes, would you say?
So some of the benefits are in terms of kind of helping to kind of strengthen the legs. Uh, you know, uh, Generally with a lot of kind of like minimalist shoes, you don't have as much kind of midsole material in between, so you're able to kind of strengthen your feet in that regard. You have a little bit better proprioception with the ground. So the kind of your senses of what kind of surface you are running on and just kind of the topography, it becomes a little bit better. You also kind of strengthen your calves a little bit more, mainly due to with minimalist shoes. The main proponent has to do with heel drop, and that is you basically are bringing the heel to toes a little bit more, kind of almost on a level kind of plane. You're not completely at zero. You still have a little bit of ramping up just to kind of protect your heel with cushioning. But yes, that you're going in that direction.
Nice. And we actually just talked about that. So in episode 62, Matt, I did give a little demo after I did see you. It was probably like the week after I saw you, and I updated my shoes. We did some live trainings on kind of Achilles tendonitis, and I mentioned that, a rapid change in the heel drop is one of the biggest causative factors for someone getting Achilles tendon pain, and going from like a 10 millimeter to a 0. And I was showing my Nikes here that I have with the 10 millimeter drop, and then showed my ultras that I have. So for those of you who missed that episode, if you type in heel drop training into the comment box, I'll shoot you the replay of that video, or just tune in to episode 62. But besides ultras, are there any other shoes out there that would be considered minimalist shoes, Matt?
Yes, surprisingly, if you looked at a Hoka shoe, you would not think that is a minimalist shoe, but that they're basically their whole kind of construction of their company was kind of behind like a minimalist movement. But they deal with, unlike the Vibram Five Fingers, where you have like next to nothing on the shoe. Hoka is all about minimalism with cushioning, with protection. So you have a lot of kind of cushioning underfoot, a lot of midsole material, but most of all their shoes are about a 5 millimeter drop or less.
Nice. So the minimalism is really referring to almost that heel drop,
Correct.
is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and with that, with you having a little less of a heel drop, you are kind of working on striking more towards your midfoot, where you basically that is what you want to be doing in terms of allowing your legs to properly kind of absorb the shock.
Okay. That makes sense. And yeah, I would totally agree with you on the difference with the heel drop in terms of muscle activation, because when I started using my ultras for strength training, I was doing the same exercises. So the same calf raise exercises, the same kind of explosive lunge exercise that I like to do for the glutes and the calf muscles. And I felt so much more muscle activation, and I was using my calves a whole lot more just by literally changing my shoes, which I thought was like fascinating from like a PT mind standpoint. So I would agree that you actually do feel it more in your muscles, and you are getting more muscle activation, as well as like your intrinsic foot muscles. So the small little muscles on the bottom of your foot, they're definitely activating a whole lot more than they would in a, let's say, traditional type of running shoe. So I do see, some of the benefits, and I've kind of shifted, like we've talked about this in the store when I come in, just to kind of fill you guys in on what Matt and I have talked about throughout the years. Really, is I went from wearing kind of traditional custom foot orthotics, and I started my PT career where I did a lot of fittings of custom foot orthotics, and kind of was trained in more of a biomechanical model. And if your foot type was a specific foot type where you were overpronated, you had a flatter foot, then what we would do for you is basically correct it and put your foot into a fully corrected position to take away some of that abnormal pronation movement of your foot going down. However, pronation is a normal movement. So there's really two ways to look at that. You can kind of stack the foot up and correct it, or you can think of trying to strengthen the deeper foot muscles and your arch muscles and the surrounding structures, your calf muscle, to help withstand the forces that are occurring with 2 times your body weight when you run on one leg, right? With each step that you take. So I've kind of shifted some of my philosophy over the years, and have been gradually kind of weaning myself out of more stability shoes with custom foot orthotics, and have gotten now into the over-the-counter inserts. So Matt, actually, why don't we mention that? I know we weren't planning on doing this, but you had recommended to me kind of super feet. So like an over-the-counter insole that you guys have in the store, and there are a bunch of different brands. Where do you see the benefit in those, and when would you recommend those for the runners when they come in the store?
So the biggest benefit for something like that is definitely kind of giving just a little bit kind of more kind of protection for somebody who might need it. whether they've out running and they feel some arch pain or some discomfort, or if they kind of really notice that they really severely pronate. I've heard number of stories working at the store where people immediately go out and get like a custom orthotic, spend 3, 4, $500 on a custom orthotic. It's mapped to their foot and it's all that. And then they find that they try to wear it and it is like super rigid and it's extremely uncomfortable. So my thinking is that you definitely need to do something, but trying an over the counter orthotic first, which, depending on what company it is, some are going to be a little bit more rigid than others. Some are going to have a little bit of flexibility. It's kind of trying that out first and seeing what you think. But yeah, we do get a lot of people who complain about, plantar fasciitis. Over-the-counter orthotic can be very helpful in terms of that, just because you just need to have just that little bit, maybe a little bit stiffer kind of foundation underfoot, either because maybe you're at a job where you're standing all the time or something like that, and just kind of because a lot of times people think, when they go out for a run and their foot is hurting them, they think they hurt it from running in it. And sometimes you have to think about, well, what are you doing the other 12 hours during the day? And sometimes that can play as big a role as, your running shoe. So I can tell you, my father, he has his moments of glory as a runner, but compared to his three sons, he wasn't quite as big a runner. But he came down with plantar fasciitis just teaching, and he had a dress shoe that just got really old and didn't change it out and developed plantar fasciitis just because he was standing on it and just the shoe softened up on him and didn't provide enough kind of support. So, it can happen to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, no, great point. And I like your point of it's not the running that causes plantar fasciitis. It's really what is happening to our bodies throughout the day, and is your body ready for the demands of running, right? So it doesn't mean if you do have plantar fasciitis that you can't be a quote unquote runner, right? It's just you have to allow the time for you to gradually train smart with proper progression and kind of allow those forces to kind of be tolerated by your body so your tissues don't wind up having pain. So great point there. But I do like the over-the-counter kind of orthotics I have been using. The Superfeet ones, those have been helpful as I've decreased the stability in my shoes and as well as decreasing the heel drop. And Robin says that, she found this out the hard way last weekend when she went from her Asics to a Hoka and was a sudden heel drop from a 10 to a 5. And she knew right away during her run, started having pain, and she kind of experienced that sudden drop. And I talked about this in episode 62, that when you are dropping, guys, in the heel drop, remember, you want to correlate that with a reduction in the training that you're doing, right? So you can't expect to stay at the same exact training volume or the mileage for that week and or the same paces that you're running. And then especially for those of you that are doing speed work, you can't expect to keep your training exactly the same if you're making that sudden change in heel drop. So like I shared my story of, I did this over the winter. Like I remember it was election day that I was in Woodbridge Running Company and I was there on election day. And because I remember I was happy about that. I was voting and then I was getting sneakers that day as well. And it was the winter months that I did this, where I was gradually weaning myself down when my mileage was lower and my speed was lower. I wasn't pushing, I wasn't doing hard workouts for a race that was coming up. So just think about that in terms of your training as well, guys. So yeah, feel free if you guys are just jumping on here. I see we got a bunch of people on. If you have any questions for Matt about running shoes, drop them into the comment box. But Matt, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this carbon fiber plates and what are carbon plate running shoes. I've heard a lot about it basically the last 6 to 12 months, maybe. I keep getting emails from all of the shoe companies about their carbon fiber shoes. What is all of this about? If we don't if we've never heard of this before.
Sure. So carbon fiber plates in running shoes, that's like the latest and the greatest technology. It's mainly all about energy return and about minimizing fatigue. So pretty much what is going on is that a carbon fiber plate is added to the midsole, and the higher end shoe, those are going to have full carbon fiber plate throughout the entire midsole. And what is happening there is that the carbon fiber plate is curved. So what it's trying to get you more up onto your toes in the shoe and forcing you to kind of really toe off a lot more. So you're on your toes more and toeing off. So it is kind of minimizing fatigue, minimizing the stress that you're putting in your calves. So you kind of feel fresher longer and feel like you can run longer. So I've been able to try on a pair or two from some of the reps who have been showing off the shoes. And for me, it kind of feels almost like I'm like running on a barrel. You're up on your toes the whole time, and you're just like constantly at that, trying to keep the barrel spinning.
Hmm. Interesting. So it really does, it kind of pushes you forward, huh?
Oh,
On that.
extremely forward. Yes. Yep.
Wow. So would you say that either one type versus another would respond to it in terms of our heel strike runners versus our midfoot or forefoot runners? Like, would one type of pattern maybe benefit more or would feel like super weird?
Well, I think for somebody who is a heavy heel striker, it will feel extremely weird, just because that you're you know you're it's going to be feel very strange just because you want to be up. It's going to the shoe is forcing you up on your toes. Somebody who strikes a little bit more midfoot or on the forefoot, it's going to feel natural, but almost maybe to the degree that it's really kind of almost leaning you forward to where you're kind of falling. But that will feel a little bit more natural to somebody who's a midfoot, forefoot striker than a heel striker. Heel striker, I would think that a shoe is like that is going to feel, it's going to take some getting used to, which, when we're talking about this whole kind of like minimalist or barefoot movement, one of the biggest things I think to bring up, and I would do a disservice if I didn't bring this up, is all about moderation. uh, you know, with these shoes, I think in the beginning, it's something that you kind of sprinkle into your training and use the shoe like a couple times a week. Maybe not, something that you go out and just train in exclusively right from the beginning, like one of the listeners who did that and kind of felt pain right away. It's something you really kind of have to slowly kind of add into your kind of training. I'm a big proponent of running in multiple shoes at the same time. So I kind of pretty much alternate a shoe every other run. So I'm not always in the same shoe every day of the week. And I got to say, in the beginning, and traditionally what I do when I break in a new shoe, I just go on a very short run with it just to make sure that my legs get used to it. Now, I unfortunately, the first time I wore a Hoka shoe, I was on a vacation and I had to get a long run in. So I did run in it probably about 8 or 9 miles. I got a little soreness in the calf, but after that, it was perfectly fine. But moderation is the biggest key with all of this stuff. And in fact, even going back to the barefoot running, when we were selling the V-rooms, we made a point for anybody who was interested in the shoes to tell them that you know in reality what you should be doing with this shoe for the first 3 to 6 months is just kind of walking in it, just to kind of get used to it. You should only really do a little bit of kind of running after you've had the shoe for a couple of months. But being the way that our society is, everybody just wants to buy it, throw it on, and be able to perform at 100% right away. And that, I think, caused a lot of some of the injuries that did happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Moderation is key, and we are definitely an impatient society, right? We always want the quick fix. So we have a couple of questions here, Matt. So Ruth is wondering, do you use the same brand of shoe for each run?
I could tell you for myself, I do not. As somebody who, traditionally, I would say before I started working at the Woodbridge Running Company, I probably would have. But working at the store, I'm exposed to so many new brands and different brands that I hadn't been exposed to previously. That I like to, a new model of something comes in, it's like, ooh, I want to try that out. I want to see how that feels. I think it's all right to kind of have, you know, shoes that feel a little bit differently or constructed a little bit differently. I think it helps kind of minimize the chance of you getting a stress fracture or a stress reaction in a shoe because, you know, different shoes are going to make you strike a little bit differently. So you're not always hitting in exactly the same spots in the same shoe. Oh yeah, I have a wall of shoes, and I still have a couple. Mainly due to COVID, I've got a closet with a couple of shoes I still haven't even cracked into yet. I just hadn't been doing enough mileage, but now that the nice weather's here, I can start to break them out.
Yeah, so you can try some different brands is what I'm hearing. And really Angela's next question is, do you change the heel drop in each different shoe that you use on a weekly basis?
I wouldn't necessarily it's done intentionally, but yes, I have. I think right now I'm running in a Brooks Ghost, which is I think about a 10 millimeter drop. And then I'm also running in a Hoka Challenger, and that has a 4 or 5 millimeter drop. And then, once weather gets nice too, I'll you start doing speed work and those kinds of things. And then I drop into even lower shoes than that, like a 4 millimeter or less. I like to kind of have a shoe that almost is somewhat like what I would race in. So that way you kind of get that feeling from that shoe as you're doing your kind of speed work or kind of doing your tempo work. So yeah, I would not. It's like I said, it's not done intentionally. Has to do with just kind of trying on different shoes and different things. And so far, it's been fine. I haven't had any issues with any calf or any Achilles issue. The only real true Achilles issue I ever had was from a Nike shoe, and not that I'm knocking Nike at all, but it was built with a Huarache sock upper, so the back of the shoe was very flexible, and that I need to have a little bit of structure in my heel apparently because it just killed my Achilles.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. And Robin's wondering is how do you think going to a minimalist styling will affect those who need more stability? And that she found that not a lot of brands have kind of the torsion plate technology. I guess she's referring to like that stability kind of web, um, that are more of a maybe a lower heel drop. Are there stability shoes that
Uh,
incorporate some minimalism into them?
yes, there are some. Hoka has a couple of options, the Arahi being the first shoe that I would think of. But yeah, as you are getting into a little bit of a lighter weight shoe, companies have kind of tinkered around with, the arch plate that might traditionally be in a stability shoe. They have thought about removing that. A lot of lightweight stability shoes are really they still provide some nice support, but yes, they're going to be a little bit more kind of flexible, a little bit less rigid. So there are some options out there. The Brooks, it's actually now, it used to be called the Ravenna. It's now called the Launch GTS. That's a nice kind of like lightweight stability shoe. Another one that we got a little while ago, which I think it has proven to be pretty good, is it's called the Nike React Miler. It's basically their latest edition of a stability shoe. The longtime structure has gone away. There you go. That's it right
There it
there.
is.
Yep, yep,
That's the one that I just got.
yep.
Yeah. Because this one is pretty stable. Like when you test it, it's,
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't move a whole lot.
it doesn't have that plastic plate there, which
Right.
yeah, that which really would make it super rigid.
Yep. Yeah. So for me, like these are pretty stability. So I wear them to work in, right? So I've been on my feet, most of the day, and these provide that cushioning as well as provide a little bit of stability. And I don't wear kind of my orthotics or anything in those. And those are very comfy. I haven't run in them because again, I'm trying to kind of decrease that heel drop with my running shoes, but you're right that they are a little bit lighter than like a traditional, I would say, stability shoe that I would have had in the past. And Robin also brings up a good point. She's a nurse and she loves her dance goes. And I know so many medical professionals, especially in the hospital settings, love their dance goes. So if you're listening to this and you're a nurse, because I feel like there are a lot of nurses in our community. If you guys wear your dance goes, just type in dance go. But those have a 13 millimeter heel drop. So she notices a huge difference, especially for you nurses, if you're on your feet all day in a 13 millimeter heel drop, and then you're just starting out, let's say running, and then you go to a ultra like a 0 drop or a 4 millimeter drop, like that's going to be a big difference for your Achilles tendon and the amount of loading. So again, I would kind of echo Matt's point with really slowly progressing and maybe making sure you're walking around in your 0 drop or 4 millimeter drop and, going shopping and walking in them first before you actually try running in those, especially if you're, majority of your time you're spent in a dance go that's a 13 millimeter drop. So one kind of, I'm sure this is a common question that you get, Matt, in the store. Dean wants to know, what are the top three running shoe brands? That's a loaded question, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is because that kind of goes into like another question that I always hear a lot of, or at least a statement that I hear a lot is that people will always come in and say, my friend recommended this shoe for me. I thought, or I got the latest Runner's World, and they had the guide in there, and they said that like this was a really good option, or that was a really good option. And it's one thing that especially you hear people talk about reviews of shoes. I kind of stay away from those kinds of things, mainly because I think running shoes are very individualistic. There could be a shoe out there that everybody could love, and it could maybe not work for you. Or there could be a shoe out there that everybody hates, and it could work perfectly for you. So it's all about kind of coming into the store, try, have a little bit of a conversation with us, find out, let us know what you're thinking about doing with your running goals, what you're planning on doing. We can kind of guide you towards a couple of shoes. You could try a couple things on, and that can kind of, you can go from there in terms of kind of experiment and try and see a couple of different things. But in terms of getting back to that question, uh, Brooks, I think, is our top seller. Uh, Hoka might be number two. They've come on with a bullet over the last couple of years. And then I would probably say either Asics or New Balance might be number three, either one of those two.
Okay. Yeah. And what would you say to someone who was afraid to change from one brand to another? Have you had folks that are kind of, they're set in there
Oh
and they're
yeah.
they're afraid to, yeah, to
Oh
change.
yeah.
So what is your advice?
My advice is, to listen to your body, I guess. I think it's all right to kind of have some of those concerns, because especially if you've been running in a shoe, like there's one gentleman who you pick back up that Nike React Miler. That is basically was the latest, that replaced the Nike Structure, which was a stability shoe of theirs that was around for 20 years. And this gentleman had been running in the Nike Structure for 20 years. That's all he knew in terms of running, at least for quite a long time. And he, of course, was a little disappointed when that shoe was. It looked like it was going away, uh, and he didn't quite know what to do. I had told him that at least the rack miler was there. He came in and tried that on. We had him try a couple of different things. I think he started with the rack miler, went for like a run or two in that shoe, and then they found out it doesn't work, and then tried the Mizuno and the Mizuno Inspire, and I believe he is using that now perfectly fine. But I can fully understand, some people's kind of concerns. But my belief is that there's not exactly just one running company or one running shoe built for you. I think everybody's a little bit more flexible than that.
Yeah, and Coach Latoya says that she has brand change phobia. That's her, and Marva says that's her as well. And Dean says that he's been using the Kayanos for nearly 10 years now. So yeah, we're kind of structured people, aren't we? We're kind of wired that way as runners. We don't like a whole lot of change.
I think they were wired as humans that way.
Let's take one more, and then we're gonna kind of finish off our conversation with carbon plated shoes, because I still have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm wondering about them. So Kelly is wondering, hey Kelly, how are you? Should you discard shoes after a certain period of time, even if they're not maxed out on mileage? What is the mileage that you recommend for most runners, by the way?
So most running shoes, and granted, as you talk about more minimalist shoes, I think those are going to be turned over a little quicker. But I would say on most shoes, you're looking at about like 300 to 500 miles. At least for somebody who doesn't want to track their mileage, if you're running on a regular basis, we're generally looking at about 6 months. In terms of after, I think it's perfectly fine to kind of use a shoe as like kind of like a walk around shoe or a kick around shoe after its running life is expired. I tend to do that with most of my shoes. Uh, if there's something that's really kind of specific, like a very kind of like a racing flat or a very lightweight shoe, those you might not want to kind of wear around as much, just because there is a minimal amount of cushioning in those shoes, and once you pretty much have beat the running life out of that shoe, they're toast. But yeah, I think for most traditional running shoes, you could kind of use them afterwards if you wanted to.
Yeah, so they go into like retirement. They go to, walking around. For me, it's my yard work shoe. So
That
those become
we do get a lot of people who do say that once they get a new shoe, they're all of a sudden, oh, this is my lawn mowing shoe now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just swapped my lawn mowing shoes out the other day, this
There you
past
go.
weekend when I was out in the yard. Yeah, no, absolutely. That was when I was actually hacking up my daughter's playscape. So we were demolishing it. It's been up
Uh,
for 12 years. So they are older, grown out of it. And my cousin and I were taking my mall axe and demolishing it. And so it was a fun day. So let's get back to the carbon plated shoes, because I know we started talking about those. And so I guess it sounds like you've tried them personally. You weren't a huge fan, is what I'm gathering, of
I,
because
I,
they pushed you all the way to the toes.
I no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I've only kind of worn them around in the store. I have not actually gotten a pair myself to actually run in. And I to you know, I wouldn't say I was totally uncomfortable with being on over heavy on my toes. To some degree, Hoka does that too. I've run into Clifton in a couple of editions, and I'm a 4 foot striker, so that kind of roll to the shoe kind of accentuates that, so it gets me up on my toes a little bit more, which I think is perfectly, it took a little while to get used to, but I've gotten used to it, and thank God it didn't kind of ruin me from other shoes, or because I'm still able to kind of go to more of a traditional shoe that doesn't kind of force that rolling, and still feel perfectly fine in it. One of these days, I think it's my father in me. Can I really spend $200 on a pair of shoes? I think I have to save up for a while to do something like that.
Okay, so that kind of brings me to my next question is, or even before we go there, have you had feedback from runners who have bought them? Are they coming in now for their second pair or their next pair? Have you had much feedback yet on the carbon plate running shoes for
A
those that
little,
have bought them?
a little bit. For the most part, we don't really have any carbon fiber plate shoes that we sell in our store. The price point has a little something to do with that. We do special order them for customers if they would like them. And I know from a couple of people who I've spoken to, they have enjoyed them.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess Hoka specific, since you know that my main shoe that I run in is the Hoka Clifton. I did notice that Hoka has like the Clifton Edge. Is that correct? Does that one have the carbon plate? And it doesn't. It's just a
The Clifton Edge does not. They have a shoe called the Carbon X, that
right.
shoe, and also the Carbon Rocket. The Carbon Rocket is a little bit more of a race shoe with a carbon fiber plate. The Carbon X is a little bit more of kind of like a light trainer to kind of daily trainer shoe.
So if there was a runner out there, like hypothetically, who ran always in the Hoka Clifton, which one of those carbon shoes would you recommend if they were looking for something for maybe speed work and races?
If you were looking at speed work or races, I would probably guide you towards the Carbon Rocket.
Okay. That just sounds fast.
Oh yeah,
Like that,
oh
that
yeah.
if you tell me I'm running in the rocket, I'm sure I'm going to shave like 2 minutes off my half marathon race in 4 weeks.
Well, I can tell you this is completely off topic, but I had we when I before I started working at the store, they sold an Adidas racing flat called the Rocket, and that was like one of my all-time favorite racing flats. I was very
Yeah.
disappointed when it got discontinued.
No, that's a great name for a shoe. So going to that price point, are most of them pretty much almost near 200?
You're generally looking at about maybe there might be some at like 180, but yeah, you're generally looking at about $200 for most of them.
Okay.
So
So,
it can be a little prohibitive for some people, but you know, if you really want a shoe that kind of really you want the greatest, the latest technology, you want something that really kind of performs at a very high level, that those would be kind of the shoes to kind of think about.
and they haven't in the competitive circuit, either at the collegiate level or even anything above that. Have you heard of any professional associations like banning these types of shoes at all from competition or no?
There have been talks on the professional level, at least of maybe not necessarily banning them, but then coming up with some sort of guidelines in terms of how shoes are constructed. One reason would be that the one of the Nike shoes, I'm not exactly positive which one. It might be the Vaporfly Next Percent. I think it was the shoe that the gentleman used to run under 2 hours in the marathon in. That I believe has like two carbon fiber plates in it. So it gives like an extra kind of bonus kind of energy boost to it and a spring to it. And I think there's some people who think that's taking things just a little bit too far.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense from a performance enhancement standpoint. So, guys, I am super, super excited. I'm going to have a special announcement because you guys have been great with your questions tonight. And if you guys are excited for the special announcement from Woodbridge Running Company, just type in excited into the comment box. And I'm going to see if you guys are ready. If you guys are ready for this announcement, before we get to the announcement, Matt, if you could change one thing about the misconception of running shoes, what would that be?
Well, I did bring it up a little bit already, but my kind of biggest misconception would be is, listening to other people, or listening to other kind of what other people think about shoes. You know, like I said before, there could be a shoe out there that everybody loves, and it might not work for you because of your biomechanics or the way that your foot is shaped. So it's just kind of come in with an open mind and, try a couple of things and realize that we're all individualistic and not one shoe isn't going to work for everybody.
No, I think that is a great take home message, because I think we all want the shoe, right? The one that's going to be the difference maker. And I see a lot of runners who, have injuries and are struggling with aches and pains. And I do come into contact with a lot of them that before they even address their injury, they change their shoes like 5 times and they're trying to self-treat with the shoe. So I think that's a great point. And for those of you who are struggling with kind of stubborn running injuries that are forcing you to stop running, if that's the case, like, let's chat. Let's see if you're a good fit for our brand new Spark Back high touch coaching program. This program has been helping runners feel stronger, more confident, and faster during their runs, and doing it all without pain. So the results have been amazing. Tune in to actually next week's Monday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear Rachel's story on how she got stronger and faster with our one-on-one coaching program. So if you guys want to learn more about that, type in Spark Back into the comment box if you're listening on Facebook, or just click the link in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast, and you can book a free 30-minute strategy call with me, and we could see if it's a good fit for you. So let's see here. Dean is excited. Joe's excited. Latoya's excited. Billy's excited. Trisha's excited. Marva, we have a lot of excitement here, Matt. Cheryl's excited. Ruth is. Janine, Adam, Melanie, Robin. Oh, man, I am just excited because you guys are excited. Okay, guys, so here is the announcement. Chris Dickerson, the owner of Woodbridge Running Company, and Matt are going to be doing something super special for one lucky Connecticut runner. So if you are local to the Woodbridge, Connecticut area, or you're in the tri-state area and you're not too far away, kind of over the border there in New York, and you don't mind taking the trip up, we are giving away one pair of running shoes. So this is like unheard of in my mind. And I was blown when Chris kind of offered that out. Oh, yes, to our healthy runner community. So here is how the contest is going to work here. You need to do 2 things. The first thing you need to do is really simple. For those of you who are already here on the live, you're going to get step number 1 done right now. So just comment contest into the comment box on this post in the Healthy Runner Facebook group. So I will mark this training as an announcement post within our Healthy Runner Facebook group, and it will be right at the top when you go to the group. So if you're listening on the podcast or you're listening to us on the Spark Your Training YouTube channel, make sure you head over to the Healthy Runner Facebook group and comment contest. And then the second thing you need to do is you need to head over to, and actually Coach Latoya is on here. So Coach Latoya, can you guys do me a favor? Because I can't type at the same time. If you can type in the comment box, programs.sparkyourtraining.com/free shoes. And those listening on the podcast, I will definitely put that link in the show notes. If you go to that link, that will enter you into the contest. So comment contest on this video here, and then head over to that link, programs.sparkyourtraining.com/free shoes, and you will be entered in. And then next Monday night during our live, I am going to select the one lucky runner who will be getting a new pair of running shoes up to $130 value of either the Brooks, Asics, or New Balance brands from Woodbridge Running Company. So I love a good contest, and this is one that will help really anyone in our running community, because we always can use shoes, right?
Oh, yeah.
So just comment contest below, and then be sure to click the link in the show notes, and you will be officially entered into the contest. And I'm excited to see who will be winning next week. So contests are always fun. So this will be fun for one lucky runner. So for those of you, I just want to kind of recap what Matt covered with us tonight. This was great. We really talked about kind of where did the barefoot craze go? Is it gone? And it seems like it's really pivoted to more of this minimalist movement and minimalism and minimalist shoes. And we talked about the benefits of minimalist shoes in terms of kind of using more of your muscles and strengthening those muscles. And we really talked about progression and allowing your body to adapt to that. Then we also talked about the carbon fiber plate movement and what is this all about in shoes. And Matt gave us a great description of how to, or what these shoes propose they do in terms of energy storage and if they're really worth it to actually purchase at this point in your running. I guess you can make that decision based upon the price point and what your goals are. But I think that was super helpful. I'm sure there are many runners who learned something today, Matt. And honestly, I really thank you for coming on because as you guys can see, Matt is super knowledgeable. If you guys agree with me, just type in Matt into the comment box, give him a little shout out. I'm really happy, honestly, to have you as a resource. As I mentioned in many different podcast episodes, honestly, Matt, that, you've been very helpful for me. I'm a strong advocate for all of you runners listening to seek out your local running store. Folks, just like Matt, there is a Matt in your community. Trust me, there is. Who can help you with these questions and troubleshoot. And I just love going into Woodbridge Running Company and being able to try on the shoes and actually go for a run outside and actually take them for a test drive. Because the thing I used to do 5-8 years ago was really order them online, and then I would get them and then I would wear them and I'm like, ew, these don't work at all. And then you got to like pack them back up, find time to actually go ship them back out. It's like a hassle. So do yourselves a favor, save yourselves like all of the headache of having to do that. And then the delay in like weeks of getting your running shoes that you need by going to your local running stores. And those in Connecticut, I highly recommend Matt and his crew over at Woodbridge Running Company. They have other great running products as well, anything. And I got my recovery sandals there, the UFUs. I love those things, as well as my Hoka recovery slides as well. I love those. So check them out. If people want to learn more about, what you guys do at the store, Matt, how can they get in touch with you guys?
You could contact us through email. We've got woodrunco@gmail.com, or you could just call the store. The phone number in the Woodbridge location, that's area code 203-387-8704.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And those of you guys who learned anything today, if you learned something about minimalist shoes or carbon fiber plate shoes or some of the heel drop stuff, just hit that like, hit the love button in Facebook here. And those of you listening on the podcast, if you think this will help another one of your runner friends, just kind of click that link in the podcast and just share it with them. Send them a text and be like, hey, you might want to check this out. I know you were thinking about changing to zero drop shoes, or, listen to this first to help them out, because we all help each other out and we're all learning and growing on this journey. I learn every single day, and I learn from folks like Matt, so we can all help each other out. Thanks again, Matt. This was really fun. I appreciate you taking your time out of your evening away from your family to spend time with our healthy runners.
Dwayne, no problem. It was a blast. And just to let everybody know, you could call the store, or stop by whenever you have kind of questions. That's one of the things that we kind of everybody who works there are runners. So it's expected that we're going to kind of have to field questions from people, and we're more than willing to do it. We really kind of love the sport and want to kind of help people, succeed in as much as possible.
Absolutely. And we got to stay healthy, right? We got to stay active, stay healthy, and just keep running. As you guys know my model. So remember, every week we go live within the Healthy Runner Facebook group. So keep us in mind in your schedule. You can always check out the next interview in our events tab. I have all those there. We have some special ones these next couple of weeks at different days, different times, have some really great guests. So check those out and come with your questions, because you will get them answered. And so thank you again, guys. I can't wait to see who the one lucky winner of getting a new pair of running shoes for free is. Make sure you put in for the contest, and we'll see you again next week. Take care, guys. Bye.